Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a deeply moving narrative about family, personal growth, and, well, incredible inner strength. It's a story that beautifully captures what it actually means to be rooted in love, and how those very roots give us the power to weather life's biggest, most unexpected transitions. We're looking at the story of a young girl, but honestly, it's really a mirror for all of us.
Okay, let's dive into this. Strong beginnings need, strong endings matter ardiane. That translates to it's not about strong beginnings, strong endings matter. And this is the ultimate destination of our narrative today. It's this profound realization from a girl who started out in a very ordinary setting, but somehow managed to build this extraordinary internal foundation. But to really understand how she reached this powerful conclusion, we gotta rewind. Let's look at exactly where she started. So, let's go back to the very beginning. Chapter 1, A Blessing is Born. Our source material paints a picture of an incredibly ordinary household. Nothing lavish, right? Just an everyday family going about their daily lives. But the second this girl is born, the entire atmosphere just shifts. Her arrival wasn't just an addition to the family, it was a complete transformation of their world. She brings this sudden, massive wave of undeniable joy into the home. It was seen as Rob D. Remet, literally a blessing from God. Her grandparents immediately started distributing burfi, which is a traditional Indian sweet, to celebrate. Now, in this cultural context, handing out sweets isn't just your basic birth announcement. Oh no, it's a proud, public declaration. They were telling the world that this child hadn't just been born, she had arrived as a divine gift. And it's exactly this immediate, overwhelming acceptance that establishes the absolute foundational roots of her identity. Moving right along to Chapter 2, Growing Up Fast. Early life is so often shaped by the dualities of our extended families. It's the merging of two completely different worlds that somehow come together to form our everyday reality. And this brilliantly illustrates a contrast that she navigated daily. On one side, her maternal family, her Nanke, represented a slightly wealthier, perhaps more comfortable world. On the flip side, her paternal family, her dadke, represented a stricter, harder, and just far more rigorous life. But what the source really emphasizes here is that she didn't let these vast differences break her or make her feel inadequate. Instead, she stood incredibly strong right in the middle of these contrasting realities, soaking up lessons from both. Let's trace this timeline to see how her reality actually evolved over time. We start with infancy, where, as we saw, she's welcomed as this pure blessing. But very quickly, we move right into early childhood. A sister arrives, then a brother. And, well, as anyone with younger siblings knows, that's pretty much the rapid end of a totally carefree childhood. Suddenly, you're middle management. She grows up fast, burdened with all these new responsibilities. Then, as we enter her late childhood, the tides shift favorably. Both her parents secure government jobs. This brings a huge wave of much-needed financial stability and relief to the household. Everything seems to be settling into a nice, comfortable rhythm. But lurking just ahead is milestone number 4, the 10th grade. And this is going to be a major, totally unexpected turning point. Which brings us to Chapter 3, the grandparents' shade. Now, in a traditional joint family structure, dynamics can be, well, incredibly complex. But while her mother found safety within the larger family unit, this young girl found something even deeper. She was raised in the protective shade or canopy of her grandparents, and they didn't just offer physical shelter. They provided 3 profound, life-altering gifts. First, they nurtured her. They took deep, intentional care of her, or paaleya. Second, they ensured she was educated, paida, heavily valuing her mind. And most importantly, they actively taught her how to build courage, hausla sikhaya. This wasn't just about shielding her from the harsh sun. It was literally about giving her the water and nutrients to grow a massive, strong trunk of her own. This specific environment, absolutely steeped in traditional joint family love, is what nurtured her baseline of early resilience. Next up is Chapter 4, the 10th grade shift. I want you to think back to your own life for a second. We all have that one moment, right? That one specific year where the safety net just vanishes and everything changes practically overnight. For her, 10th grade was exactly that moment. Life took a sudden, massive turn that she had to navigate. Which brings us to a really critical question. What happens when the shade disappears? Because of life's shifting circumstances, the physical closeness she shared with her grandparents was severed. She had to leave the protective canopy she had known since the very day they handed out those sweets.
Just imagine the sheer vulnerability of stepping out of that cool shade and into the blinding, harsh sun entirely by yourself.
That leads us to Chapter 5, Becoming Your Own Light.
This is where the story completely pivots from a tale of being cared for into this incredibly empowering narrative of self-reliance. This is really the climax of our explainer. She is no longer the passive recipient of her grandparents' courage. She has to actively forge her own. She had to learn to become the light herself. Khud roshni banna seekhna piya. So, the crucial point is, the grandparents were physically gone. They were distant. But here is the absolute magic of how she was raised. The shade disappeared, sure, but the love didn't. She completely internalized every single ounce of that care, education, and courage they poured into her. She basically stopped looking for an external source of light to guide her and realized she had to ignite that light from within. And that brings us to one of the most deeply resonant takeaways of this entire explainer. Jo pyar cha pali hove, o kabhi tutti nahi. One who was raised in love never breaks. Now, she still falls, of course. Life is still hard. The drastic differences between her two worlds still exist. But when she falls, she always gets back up. Why? Because her core is literally unbreakable. That early investment of pure, unconditional love from her daddy and dadi gave her this emotional shock absorber that will, for sure, last a lifetime. And finally, we arrive at Chapter 6, Strong Endings Matter. You see, this isn't just a story about one girl in an ordinary home in Punjab. It's honestly a universal blueprint for human resilience. Strong beginnings don't define you, strong endings do. She didn't start with endless wealth or an easy paved road. She started by navigating the complexities of strict versus comfortable family sides. She took on heavy responsibilities as a young child, and she lost her primary emotional safety net right in the absolute middle of her adolescence. But she took the love she was given, became her own light, and engineered her own resilience. How you adapt, how you internalize the good stuff, and how you finish the journey, that matters infinitely more than the ease of your starting line. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. When life inevitably forces you out of the shade, how will you choose to shine your own light? Because we all lose our safety nets eventually, right? But if we can internalize the love, the care, and the courage we've been given, we too can navigate those incredibly difficult transitions without breaking. Take this powerful lesson of resilience with you today, maybe reflect on your own roots, and remember that you always, always have the power to write a strong ending. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.